This is ESPN college football analyst Rini Angolia, and you're listening to the Sports Objective Podcast, the unofficial podcast of the Pirates.
Next week is when most of the teams are getting underway for their 2021 campaign. And Bubba, it's always great to have this guy back.
Yeah, no doubt, Dave. I'm taking a look around the state of North Carolina at the other FBS programs. We'd like to welcome back into the show former NC State quarterback and longtime radio color analyst Johnny Evans. Johnny, we appreciate your time this afternoon.
Well, thank you, Bubba and Dave. Always good to be with you guys. And as we said a little earlier off air, it is football season, and it's an exciting time of the year.
No doubt about it. This is kind of like for football fans, Johnny. I know you being a former quarterback at NC State, this is a big time for the players and the coaches. And I know with NC State, since we're having you on, and for obvious reasons, to preview NC State, you guys have got to be excited with all the excitement around the program, with the great recruiting job that Dave Doran has done. And looks like the program is definitely still very strong.
Well, there is a lot of excitement, I think, with the fan base. Even Coach Doran was quoted recently as saying, we have a chance to be really good. And, of course, you got to go out and earn it. He qualified that statement. And that I don't think that should be interpreted as being braggadocio. It should be interpreted as the reality. I mean, they've got a lot of seniors. They've got a handful, I think 3 super seniors now, new term in college football. The seniors that came back because of last year's COVID, intervention. And it's just the fact that they're expecting good things. People are anticipating good things. It can be kind of scary, for veteran fans and coaches and people that understand how fragile a successful season can be, especially at the very beginning. But certainly the pieces are in place, I guess is the best way to say it, guys, of NC State having a successful year.
Johnny, let's take a look at Coach Doran on the whole before we really dive into this year's ball club. Obviously, that first season way back in 2013, 3-9. But after that, 8 wins, 7 wins, 9 in back-to-back seasons. Then he had 2019 where really had some issues with the offense and the quarterback situation, but bounced back, as you already mentioned, last year, winning 8 ball games, 7-3 in the ACC. So talk about just where you see Coach Doran headed into year 9.
Well, first of all, I think perseverance, grittiness, blue collar, hard worker, work ethic, all those phrases that kind of sound maybe a little cheesy, they all apply to Coach Doran. I mean, he hangs in there, man. And you went through the number of wins in the season and the little dip in 2019 and being close to the program. I remember, going into that UNC game, last game of the season, and the writing was on the wall. I mean, there was a lot of folks that felt like he and his staff may not even survive that 2019 season, but they did, and then the bounce back, despite so many opportunities, I think, for people just to say, well, this season doesn't even count. This season is so crazy because of COVID, and they had to move a game back. That fortunately for them, it was the first game of the season, and they had an open date the second week, so it didn't really affect anything. And they had to overcome a quarterback that was coming into his own and then breaking his leg, those types of things, you could just throw in the towel and then having to deal with COVID week after week after week. And they survived, not only survived, they thrived and had to bounce back. And so, Coach Doran is the leader of that. He creates that culture. He creates that environment, and he's done a great job in recruiting. And what NC State fans are hoping is that this year there's going to be a little bit of a payoff, because he had said about 3 years ago, we should be pretty decent, when this recruiting class from 3 years ago gets to be juniors and seniors, and that's where we are. So let's strap it on and see how it goes.
Johnny, as far as the COVID year was concerned, I know one of the things with following the East Carolina program, the Pirates are bigger, stronger, faster, which is crazy considering how things went. How about as far as behind the scenes with the Wolfpack? How did COVID affect the team as far as that's concerned? I know that conditioning is always a big factor with football, and it was even bigger of a deal last year with COVID.
Yeah, the strength and conditioning director, D'Antonio Burnett, a former very great linebacker for NC State and has been on the strength of the staff, worked his way up from an assistant to the head man and now the director for the football program, did an outstanding job, not only during the season, but then into the off season. So that bigger, stronger, faster moniker certainly applies, I think, probably to most Division I schools, but certainly it does to NC State. The guys that were injured, they feel like they've got them back. They're back in good shape, and they're better than ever. So, yeah, I think there's an example of taking advantage of a situation that could be considered a negative. That's the COVID. Nobody is going to say it's a positive to go through what we've had to go through, but taking that negative and making the best of it. And there can be even fruit born from some of those negative situations. And I think the conditioning of NC State, maybe the mental toughness, the fact that they were able to bounce back from a 4-win season the previous year to an 8-win season last year. Those are all things you can build on. You build your culture, you build your mentality and the attitude. Still got to go out and earn it, like Coach said in his quote last week in a press conference. But certainly that's sort of where the Pack are here, just a week ahead of, maybe 9 days ahead of their first game.
One of the reasons for Coach Doran and Wolfpack fans to have so much optimism, you have a quarterback like Devin Leary out of New Jersey, a lot of success last season, but then he had that injury. But the game he had against Pitt, that was the first time a Wolfpack quarterback had exceeded 330 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions since way back when Russell Wilson, had done it in 2009. So just talk about Devin Leary and what a great piece he is for that Wolfpack offense as well as the program as a whole.
Yeah, well, it starts with just arm talent, as they say, arm strength. He can make throws. You just watch him. An untrained eye can just go out and watch a bunch of guys throwing the ball around, and you go, wow, that ball kind of just zips off his hand. And so he's got great arm strength. That's where it starts. But there's a lot of guys with great arm strength, and then he had to sort of go through a learning curve. He redshirted his first year. He had to sit behind Ryan Finley, and then which was good for him, I think. And then he came and got to start early in his redshirt freshman year, and then kind of realized this is not going to be that easy. And came back last year and got caught up in a COVID protocol situation where he lost his starting job first game of the season, but then worked himself back into the starting position, had that Pitt game, which I think was kind of the turning point for him mentally, and then had 3 games in a row where you could clearly say NC State's found their quarterback. Finally, he's coming into his own, and then he has that bad break of his leg against Duke, and so that's a question mark. I'm not trying to. I'm not talking as a doctor now. I'm just saying, anytime anybody has a season-ending injury like that, they need to, they got to come back and prove themselves, and that's where he is right now, and he's got a good. He should feel good mentally. I've had a season-ending injury, and I know what it's like to take that first hit, get fallen on, get the weight of defenders around you and own you, and at that position. And so, he'll go through that early in the season, and I think he'll come through it fine. And that's sort of the linchpin for NC State's offense. Clearly, is how well Devin Leary comes back from those 3 really outstanding games that he had right in the middle of last season.
Johnny, speaking of the offense, let's talk the rest of the offense with skill players, maybe the tight ends. Can you give us an idea with running back or just the rest of the offense, period?
Yeah, well, Zonovan Bam Knight, as we know him the stats aren't, off the charts. 788 yards. He did average close to 6 yards per carry, which is one of the best in NC State history. But he's got that explosiveness. He has all-purpose yardage. He averaged, close to the 100-yard mark in all-purpose because he was a great kickoff returner. Had one of over 100 yards for a touchdown in one game. And so, Bam Knight is kind of he's going to be the key runner. And then you've got he's a shifty, smaller. By smaller, he's still over 200 pounds. So he's not a, small walking down the street. He wouldn't seem like a small guy, but compared to the running backs like Ricky Person, who's, closer to 230 and well over 6 feet tall. Ricky Person comes in. He had 650 yards last year, and he's kind of that guy that, upon first contact, he's always going to be falling forward. So you got Bam, who's the explosive guy. You got Ricky Person, who's kind of the 1 yard guy that you need, and that's a pretty good duo right there. You got Emeka Emezi, who's taking advantage of that super senior status, coming back for a sixth season. He was the leading catcher, 47 catches, 5 touchdowns. Thayer Thomas in his fifth year, as a fifth-year senior, 42 catches, 6 touchdowns. So they're going to be the key receivers for Devin Leary, the go-to guys for him. And they do lose Angeline, their tight end, but they're going to be in good shape with the guys that they have coming back. Enough weapons. That's not even counting some of the true freshmen, redshirt freshmen that we haven't even seen. We don't know, except for guys that go to practice and scrimmages, but none of the fans have even seen some of these guys. And that's the beauty of this game, is that's where, somebody gets a chance. Somebody comes in, makes a play, and the rest is history. I played with a guy named Ted Brown. Some of y'all might remember that name, and that's the way he got his start. But he's just messing around on the JV team, buying his time, gets his opportunity, and the rest is history. The second all-time leading rusher in ACC history. So it's going to be fun to offensively to see if these guys can really, I think, live up to potential.
Johnny, before we shift over and talk about the defense, tell us what you can about the offensive line. Well,
the Icky, we call him, Akeem Ikwanu, he sets the standard. He's the big left tackle, that blindside offensive tackle. Grant Gibson coming back for his senior season at center. Those are the two guys who are going to be the anchors. They've got the experience, they've got the size, they've got the ability. Both of them are on preseason, award watches. People are pointing them out as top guys, and also preseason, all ACC watch lists. These are the two offensive linemen that NC State's going to build around. So they've got some experience there, and that's where it all begins, is up front.
Shifting over and taking a look at the defense, tell us what you can. How are the Wolfpack looking on that side of the ball?
Yeah, that's a real easy one to talk about. It's the linebackers. It's two of the leading tacklers in the entire conference last year. Peyton Wilson, who was all ACC last year and preseason all ACC this year. Isaiah Moore, who was second on the team in tackles behind Peyton Wilson, I think 10th in the ACC. These two guys are really the epitome of college linebackers. They're active. They play long. They're not little short, stubby run stoppers. They can deflect balls. They can get back in coverage. Peyton was a high school wrestler, And I tell you, you can see that in the way he plays. He'll once he gets his hands on somebody, like he's slinging people. It looks like a takedown. It looks like a wrestling takedown. A lot of times, that doesn't mean he isn't putting his helmet in there or putting his shoulders in there. But both of those guys really are the pillars, the two pillars of the defense. Last year, the weakness of the defense was the defensive backfield, and so now that's going to be the big question mark. Can you put some pressure on the opposing quarterbacks, and can those cornerbacks and safeties hold up in the event these quarterbacks get the ball off? That's where the NC State fan base is going to be looking. But you don't have to worry about the guys that are in between, in the intermediary. You got Peyton Wilson and Isaiah Moore. They're the two stars, if you will, of the defense for NC State.
And Johnny, I wanted to ask you, as far as one of the things that we've noticed is former wide receiver from the Pat Dye era at East Carolina, Terry Gallagher. He goes to the Senior Bowl every year. And I remember 2 years ago, he was talking about Dave Doeren and the job he had done with the talent level. He was just really amazed at the NFL talent level of NC State. And I just wanted to get you to talk about that.
Well, there will be some guys that will play in the NFL that are currently playing in the NFL off the Doeren staff that played under Coach Doeren, and so yeah, I mean that's what you're looking at, and two guys that you guys know because you know football, that are so important, as important as anybody that I've mentioned so far, is kicker Christopher Dunn and punter Trent Gill. Both of those guys could be all ACC, could be up as one of the top kickers and punters duos in the entire nation. And both of them, if they have good final years, will be playing on Sundays next year as well. So that's sometimes an often forgotten part of the game, but it's such an important. Coaches talk about hidden yards that it's easy to talk about the rushing yards and the passing yards and the sack yardage and all that kind of stuff, but the punters and the kickers, that's they're key, and both of those guys are all stars in their own right.
Taking a look at the Wolfpack schedule, 4 of the first 5 are at Carter Finley Stadium, with the lone away game being a trip to Starkville to take on Mike Leach and the Mississippi State Bulldogs. So, and obviously you also get Clemson for your conference opener. So right out of the gates there, and the good news is that, like I mentioned, it is in Raleigh. Yeah,
that's always helpful. And especially, I think, in a year where you're finally going to get to play in front of some fans, at least as of today. This COVID thing is so fluid, and who knows what kind of restrictions could happen during the season. And everybody that's been hadn't had their head in the sand the last 2 years realize that. So having 4 home games, getting a home crowd, getting people excited, getting the energy level up, and albeit getting to play Clemson, who most polls have them, I guess, number 2 behind Alabama going into the preseason this year, and that's Coach Doeren has really played Clemson well. They've had some heartbreaking, missed a little chip shot, less than 30-yard field goal with a few seconds remaining that would have won against Clemson down there in Death Valley about 3 years ago, and then they played Clemson well. Now Clemson's played NC State well also, and they come away with the victories more often than not. But I think it's great playing Clemson early, playing them at home, getting an opportunity to see, kind of measure yourself. Are we really who we want to be, who we think we are? And so I like seeing them early on when you have your best players healthy, and let's see how NC State measures up. So I think the schedule bodes for some success. I'm not big into predicting, what do you think? What do you think about, the first 4 or 5 games and where might they stand? I think they're going to get off to a good start. And the fact that they have 4 home games out of those first 5 is going to be helpful.
Johnny, that you talking about Clemson at tight games, the Pac is known to be a giant killer. That's what I would say. With especially, you guys had a run there of Florida State's number over the years, and when it was played at Carter Finley for sure. With that September 26th game, not to look ahead because you have a few opponents before that, but you were talking about Clemson being home, and we know what a great fan base that NC State has, and that place can get really loud, especially when you have a big opponent like Clemson coming in. So Tiger fans and the team, I know Dabo is a great coach, but they better not sleep on NC State.
Yeah, I can pretty much I would not expect them to be sleeping, against the Pac and Coach Swinney, has proven himself as one of the top college coaches. I know there's a lot of mutual respect between Coach Swinney and Coach Doran. I've heard that individually from both of those men, and I've heard them say that publicly. So, and you can see it when they compete against each other. They like to go after each other in terms of. What I mean is they put all their efforts, into that game in their coaching and their staffs. And so, yeah, I think it'll be fun. Early in the season, late in September, it's going to be hot. It's going to be a great environment. Again, assuming that the fans are allowed to come and fill up the stadium, that'll be a huge advantage for NC State.
Johnny, here a couple hours ago, we had breaking news. It had been rumored for several days, but the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 announced historic alliance. Obviously, kind of in response to what the SEC did, nabbing Texas as well as Oklahoma here a few weeks back. So what are your thoughts on everything that's going on with the landscape in college football and college athletics?
Well, it's the business / if you want to call it politics. I know there's a lot of posturing. I don't have any kind of inside info on why things are happening or what's going on. But I mean, you don't have to be all that too smart to know that the business end, the money is driving all these things. And it's, what do you call it? Posturing, negotiations, putting yourself in the best position. And, I can't blame any school, any institution to want to make more money. I mean, that's important in this day and age. But at the same time, it just seems almost like I can't even imagine, sometimes some of the teams that are mentioned that might go into alliances with one another and go and join conferences and leave conferences. And, sometimes it doesn't, I'm old school. I remember the old ACC and, I'm still getting used to Syracuse and Miami, being in the ACC, and I know they've been in our conference for many, many years. I'm not anti them being there. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I'm old school thinking about, when conferences were sort of geographic and but you could bus, the fans could drive and bus to games, and now things are getting so spread out. But that's the environment that we live in. So, I'm no sense whining about it. Let's just try to figure out, the best way we can make things work. And so I'm sure that's what these athletic directors are trying to do.
Johnny, one final question for you. I appreciate you being on with us. Out of curiosity, with July 1, with name, image, and likeness being in Raleigh, have there been players from NC State to cash in? I hate to use that term on name, image, and likeness. If so, who are they?
Well, if they have, they've been kept kind of quiet. I know that as a general philosophy, I think that NC State, and wisely so, are trying to help to manage, and don't misunderstand that they're not trying to control the student athletes opportunities that the NIL is going to provide for them, but they do want to try to protect them, I guess. And so there's been maybe a little bit more of a not a public made public any of these things. So I haven't read nor have I heard any deals that have been made, but I have from some other schools, and it's inevitable. There'll be some NC State players that are going to get to profit, so I'm happy for those guys. That are. I just hope this whole thing doesn't become a free for all, and that we don't 3 to 5 years from now look back and go, man, is this a circus now because of name, image, and likeness. I think from what I so far there hadn't been any crazy deals that I've heard about, but hopefully it can kind of stay under control. But I don't know of any specific agreements or contracts that any of the student athletes there at NC State have signed on with.
Well, Johnny, thank you so much for being on with us. I know you always get to us each and every year, and want to ask how fans can listen to you guys, you and Gary Hahn, for many, many years. I love to listen to the broadcast. I'm a broadcasting nerd and love radio, many years of 25 years now, radio myself. How can we listen to you guys during the season?
Yeah, 101.5, and tune in, and we will do our best to bring it, to tell it straight, and try to encourage the NC State fans, of course, with a good positive broadcast. But at the same time, when the opposition makes the plays, hey, give them credit, man. They need to. We need to be able to have that liberty to broadcast that as well. So that's the best way to tune in and to let us give you a good experience on game day.
All right, Johnny, thank you so much. Good luck to the Wolfpack this year, and we'll see you around the stadium, I know, pretty soon.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Always good to talk to you.